All right. We're hereby re-adjourned. He'll let us know when we can really start. Thank you all for your patience and all this evening. Testing, testing. Audio good? Great. Is Suzette here? No. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem and members of City Council, honored guests, including the Mayor of Mount Pleasant is with us this evening, Will Haney, and my fellow Charlestonians. It's an honor to be speaking with you this evening from these historic City Council chambers. These chambers celebrate their 200th birthday this year. This is the place where for those 200 years our elected leaders and citizens have come together to take part in the great debates of the day and to forge the future of our children and our grandchildren. Last year, with that future in mind, I asked our council and citizens to come together around a positive plan of action for 4 most critical challenges facing our city today. 1, flooding and drainage, traffic and transportation, affordable housing, and public safety. And thanks to the real progress we've seen on each of these issues and more, I'm pleased to be able to report to you tonight that the state of our city of Charleston is hopeful and strong. But there's much work to be done. Here's what just some of that progress looks like. In the past 12 months, we've all had the honor of getting to know and beginning to serve with our city's outstanding new public safety leaders, Police Chief Luther Reynolds and Fire Chief Dan Currier. We've launched an ambitious affordable housing plan, working with builders now to create hundreds of new affordable units. And we've created a new citywide transportation plan in conjunction with the Regional Council of Governments that ensures that projects will be in line for state and federal funding. But as great as our progress has been on these and other issues, such as short-term rentals, social justice issues, West Ashley revitalization, I want to focus tonight on our city's top priority, flooding and drainage. And with that in mind, I'm going to set aside these remarks that are written and give you, our citizens and council, a detailed and comprehensive report on what we've done, what we're doing, and what we plan to do to protect our citizens and property from flooding and sea level rise. Next City Council meeting, I will be presenting to you the revised flooding and sea level rise strategy for the city of Charleston. Let's have a little history lesson first. If you look at this old map of Charleston, you'll see the blue areas are in fact where creek beds and marshes once were. Councilmember Mitchell, your home is in one of them. And that's where we have historic flooding in our city. So in 1859, the city in earnest first started building infrastructure to deal with drainage with these archway tunnels. The first one came down Meeting Street and ends at White Point Gardens. Tonight we approve adding a check valve at the end of that very drainage tunnel. So over time, the peninsula developed into this grid of undersized and inefficient pipes and flooding features that don't meet today's requirements. Likewise, West Ashley developed over the decades, first while it was outside of the city, without real requirements from the city, and also those drainage features, as we know, are inadequate. So the city back in 1984, even before Hugo, knew we had to deal with flooding and drainage. And and requisition a master drainage plan that came up with a number of projects that some of which we're still working on today. But what happened over the last 4 years? We've had historic flooding, extreme weather, hurricanes year after year. 2015, the 1,000-year rainfall. 2016, Hurricane Matthew. 2017, Irma. We had a close hit with Florence last year. And you can see on this chart to the right that 8 and 9 foot tides have become a regularity, whereas before they were stretched out over the decades. Relying on science, we now know that sea level is truly rising. In the harbor of Charleston, it's actually been documented over the last 100 years that the harbor of Charleston has risen nearly 18 inches. Very reliably, the city believes in the next 50 years there will be a sea level rise of 2 to 3 feet. That's what we're planning for. And if you combine the extreme weather that we're seeing, the sea level rise that we know is coming, we have a situation that presents the existential threat to our city. If you look out generations to come, we must deal with our drainage and flooding issues and sea level rise for our city to survive, for our children and our grandchildren to be able to enjoy this city as we do today. You know, next year we're going to, in 2020, have our 350th anniversary of the city of Charleston being founded. Don't we all want to see our city be able to survive and be enjoyed by generations to come for at least another 350 years? So we have to have a vision. This flooding strategy is built on that clear vision of protecting our citizens' lives and their property, of preserving economic vitality and opportunity, and improving the quality of life for our residents and our neighborhoods. So it comprises so many things, but it's a strategic plan with 5 critical components. And the 2 that we're most used to talking about in these council chambers are the projects or the infrastructure and the resources about how we're going to pay for them. And those 2 components are critical, but we're adding the consideration of the governance. What kind of requirements are we putting in place to protect ourselves from flooding and to control future development? The land use, thinking about smartly for where we should be building in the future. We've seen from the past that we built on marshes and creek beds, and it's gotten us in trouble. And lastly, the outreach to involve our citizens to advocate for these changes that need to occur, and also to be involved each on an individual level. So we'll talk about the resources first, and the most important is the human resources. And that's why this council approved recently to create a new stormwater department for the city of Charleston. So we have a singular focus on dealing with drainage and flooding issues. We've also, in our current year's budget, have provided for new personnel to help our project managers with maintenance issues, with small projects, with inspectors, but most importantly with new construction workers to help maintain ditches and the drainage features that we have throughout the city. We've initiated a number of resource initiatives to bring expertise like this city has never seen before, including a national effort of the Army Corps of Engineers, a partnership with the city of Charleston to bring their best experts from around the country to focus on our flooding and drainage issues. The Dutch dialogues, Council members Gregory and Seekings went with me last year to go to the Netherlands to see really what the world's greatest experts are doing to manage water and learn to live with water. So even the Army Corps of Engineers partnership began about 3 months ago. They've had numerous meetings already and have assembled Corps of Engineers personnel from around the United States to help us with this effort. But the most important thing about this Corps of Engineers initiatives is once they vet the projects that we are presenting to them, and they may augment and come up with their own projects, we will get the Army Corps of Engineers stamp of approval. And that will help us get the necessary federal funding that we need to make some of these projects happen. It's just like dredging the harbor. Before they could begin the multi-million-dollar project of dredging Charleston Harbor, they had to get the Corps of Engineers stamp of approval. And that's what we're doing with them. The Dutch Dialogues is going to be an amazing process over the next 7 months to bring the world's leading experts on drainage and flooding. This was an example that we saw in the Netherlands where they literally created new space for water to go, because we realize that we have to manage water. We can't always fight it and win the battle. We need to create spaces as we develop for water to be able to go to. Hazard mitigation buyouts. This is a scene of Bridgepoint townhomes in Shadow Moss neighborhood that had flooded repeatedly over the last 3 years. And we applied and received a grant along with FEMA to buy these homes out. We're about to finish closing on them. And just like the Dutch did, I envisioned that we could have a lovely green and blue natural space that will absorb more water and also, as the Dutch would recommend, always provide an amenity for the quality of life for our citizens. Funding sources, how are we going to pay for all these projects? Folks, there's no silver bullet. It's not going to come from one place. We've got to cobble together a variety of resources from every place that we can think of, including our own drainage fund, including our general fund when needed, including tax increment finance districts, including the half-cent sales tax that Charleston County collects, the State Infrastructure Board, accommodations tax. We have presented again to the state legislature and hope that it will pass this year. We believe it will, to allow the city of Charleston to be able to use accommodations and hospitality taxes to be able to pay for drainage improvements and other grants as well. This is an example of different TIF districts in the city. These are on the peninsula. Where you see the colors are areas where the city has created these special taxing districts where we get extra property tax in order to invest in public infrastructure, including drainage projects. We've recently created the Church Creek TIF District west of the Ashley. This is the only TIF district in the state of South Carolina that was created 100%. Every dollar will go to drainage improvements within and around the Church Creek drainage basin. The half-cent tax allocation. Every year, Charleston County allows application to the half-cent, mostly for transportation uses, but also for drainage as well. And we've met with the county where appropriate, where they're doing a transportation project like the widening of Glen McConnell, and we have a project we want to do to reconnect Lake Dodderer to the Long Branch drainage basin to be able to use half-cent sales tax transportation dollars for that drainage project. Then, the infrastructure. What are you actually doing? What are the projects you're working on? Here's a long list, including Forest Acres, Church Creek Drainage Basin, and right on down the line. I'm going to show you highlights of a few of the projects that we're engaged in now and have plans to do in the near future. This map shows a summary of some of the drainage projects that were established back in that 1984 drainage study that was done, but many of which are still ongoing, including the Forest Acres and the tunnel systems downtown. In addition, we're providing check valves at the major, what they call outfalls, where stormwater goes back to a river or to the harbor to prevent storm surge and tidal action from pushing water up into our storm drain system. These are very effective, and even though there's a prediction that we'll have many more sunny day flooding days as time goes on, these check valves have already produced benefits in the locations where they've already been installed. This map of the peninsula shows the checks where check valves have been installed, and then the blue lines show where tunnel systems are either already underway or planned for the future. The first tunnel system came down Meeting Street over Calhoun Street to the Concord Street pump station. This is right in front of where the new International African American Museum is going to go. During Hurricane Matthew, this pump station pumped in a 24-hour period about 58 million gallons of water out of the city and into the harbor. This is one of the machines that actually, we call it a mole, that drills the tunnel systems. And here's what a tunnel looks like when it's under construction. It hadn't been completed yet with its cement shell, and that's a final, close to a final product before being put into use. That's just to show you the scale of the size of a typical tunnel system. So Market Street will be added to the Calhoun and Meeting Street tunnel system. It's already been added underground. 3 drop shafts have been connected to that tunnel system, but to tell you the truth, all the storm drains along the street have not been connected yet. And when we do a streetscape improvement of Market Street, north and south, Market Street, starting this year, it will connect all of those storm drains to the tunnel, and it will make an amazing difference as it has along Meeting and East Bay Street and Calhoun Street. How many remember 20 plus years ago what it was like every time you got an inch of rain at the corner of East Bay and Calhoun Street? It would immediately flood with about 2 or 3 feet of water, right? Doesn't do it anymore. The tunnel systems can work. They do work. This map shows the spring Fishburne drainage basin that's currently underway. It's about a 600-acre drainage basin, including all of the Septima Clark Parkway. And this shows a little more detail of where the tunnels will go from Cumming Street up on the right-hand side down to the drop shaft that will be between the 2 Ashley River bridges, and then a cross tunnel that starts up just below Burke High School and runs down to Cannon and President Street. This photo shows the drop shaft there at Cumming Street, right where the interstates end. And this drop shaft will be the site of the wet well and pump station that will evacuate this whole tunnel system when it fills with water into the Ashley River. It's estimated that the 3 pumps that will be installed at this location will far exceed the capacity of the Concord station, able to pump up to 500 million gallons in a 24-hour period. This diagram shows the tunnel underneath for a spring Fishburne drainage system and what the wet well system with the pump station will look like. And finally, a rendition of the pump station itself once it's installed on top of the wet well. This system will end the day where the Septima Clark Parkway is a hindrance to mobility in our city whenever it rains. This will make the difference, folks. This last tunnel system would be the Calhoun West, and it's a nearly 700-acre area, combination of drainage basins that is on the lower western side of the peninsula of Charleston. This shows where the tunnels will go, starting up at Mars Street and St. Philip, and running all the way down to the Coast Guard station just below Broad Street. Finally, on the peninsula is our low battery wall protection that will begin this year to rebuild and heighten the low battery wall. So this is what I envision for the peninsula of Charleston. Eventually, we will have a perimeter wall protection all the way around the perimeter of Charleston, but do it in a way where it's a benefit to our citizens with walkways and amenities, and then have the tunnel systems in place so when rainwater or other water happens to get beyond the perimeter wall, we'll be able to pump it out. It's an amazing technology. It's very complex, but it's a system that will really work for the Peninsula of Charleston. Turning West Ashley, we've just completed phase 1 of the Forest Acres drainage improvements, which converted an old pump system to a gravity flow system. And it's always best if we can to have what they call open conveyance, open systems that work with gravity rather than having pumps if possible. Phase 2 on this project will start this year. This map shows the drainage basin that phase 1 and phase 2 cover, all West Ashley. This is about a 300-acre drainage area. Earlier last year, we completed the Church Creek drainage study that came up with, I believe, 7 different projects costing about $50 million that will need to be accomplished in order to address drainage in the Church Creek drainage basin. The first we've already started, the Hickory Farms diversion channel, but there's more to come, and luckily Council has approved that TIF district I mentioned in order for us to have a funding stream to be able to put these improvements in place. This watershed is called the DuPont-Wapoo watershed, and it's about a 500-acre area. It's not just a study. As we've been going through and identifying the drainage features in this area, we've been doing maintenance and repairs, and we'll be planning further projects that will improve drainage in this watershed. In the meantime, we've been engaged with smaller neighborhood projects that help drainage, like the Ashley Hall Manor drainage project, which improved the ditches and created another easement for water to be able to get out of the neighborhood. In a similar fashion, we've just started the Westwood project, which is right next to Blessed Sacrament Church there on Moore Drive off of Savannah Highway. On James Island, the county is helping us with a study of the Signal Point Road area, and we all agree, we've been talking about this tonight, the Wamba area, study area is the next study area for the city-county cooperative effort, which will involve many projects to come. In a similar fashion, Johns Island master plan is being done for drainage improvements. It was precipitated by a problem in the Barberry Woods neighborhood. Maintenance, though, is a key thing. And I want to add, we're adding new technology in order to keep track of ditch maintenance. We've added GIS mapping to all our ditch maintenance, and so that will increase accountability and reliability of our projects. Now, for governance, the rules and regulations that control all this. The big thing is that the city will this year improve and update our stormwater manual, and we've already put in place new requirements for the Church Creek drainage basin because they were so important there. So we'll be doing that this year. Our task force has already been assembled and has been meeting. We'll be bringing those recommendations to council this summer. We're improving our rating system so folks can save more money on their flood insurance. Now we got a 20% savings. We hope to earn enough points with the National Flood Insurance Program to get 25% savings for our citizens. We've put new regulations in place for elevating homes in the historic district, and this is also part of the mitigation grants that we're applying for, not just to buy out homes that have been repetitively flooding, but also to elevate homes that need to be elevated. Lastly, the other initiative or component of our strategy is outreach, to encourage and invite our citizens to be a part of this effort. to advocate for the changes that we need, to advocate for the changes in policy and legislation, but also to be aware that even citizens on a daily basis can help to make sure they've got their flood insurance, to keep a clean yard so that your debris doesn't get in a storm drain, to help us keep storm drains clean near your home, to adopt practices, green practices, planting more trees, having green roofs, collecting water in water barrels. All these things we'll have to do together as a community to create a mindset among Charlestonians, not only of the importance, the existential importance of dealing with flooding and drainage, but for us all to become a part of the solution. So folks, that's a vision to protect our city, our citizens, our safety, our property for the long term, for generations to come. This is the issue that we must address, and all these things are coming together here in 2019 in such an incredible way, bringing the expertise from around the world to review our projects and add to them, to help garner the resources both from initiatives that we're doing and from the money that we need to apply for to pay for the infrastructure and to involve our citizens. I ask you all, I challenge you to join me, join our City Council in recognizing the importance of this issue and for the future of our city. And I thank you for being with us this evening. God bless you all. It's been an honor to be with you this evening, and even more, it's always an honor to serve as the mayor of the City of Charleston. Good night, God bless you, and God bless the City of Charleston.